All right. Good day, everyone out there. So I've never done this before. I was thinking that I would let you in on how I dieted for this World Championship competition coming up in Miami, the DFAC World Finals. Last year I did a show here in Ohio in Newark, and I dieted for about 16 weeks and felt that I needed another 4 weeks. Once that was all said and done, I was on stage and everything. I needed another 4 weeks to get as tight as I really wanted to. So for this competition, I decided that I would diet down for 25 weeks. But truth be told, I started dieting basically January 2nd with counting my macros going up, doing what is called a clean bulk, where I would do high calories, bringing my weight and my muscle mass up for 4 weeks, and then bring it back down for 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how well my body responded to that. And when all was said and done, by April, I was eating 4,600 calories. I was 204 pounds and about 13 or 14% body fat. So the last week of April, I just didn't count my macros. I ate as much as I wanted or as little as I wanted. I didn't worry about it. Still sticking to my 5 meals a day. And so starting on May 1, when I started this competition cut, I was 202 pounds, 13% body fat. For some reason, I didn't write down my first 2 weeks of my nutrition plan. So I started at 202, and I believe I was eating somewhere around 3,200 calories to start my cut. By week 3, I was 198 pounds at 11% body fat. So that puts my lean body mass at 176 and my fat mass at 22 pounds. For that week, I ate 2,942 calories. And my macros were 297 grams of carbs, 98 grams of fat, and 218 grams of protein. And so I only check my weight once a week, every Saturday morning. As soon as I would wake up, I would go to the bathroom and then check my weight. That's really how to get the truest weight possible for you. Otherwise, when you have food in your stomach, you have water in your stomach, clothes on and stuff like that, that always adds a little bit. And if you're not wearing the same clothes every time, you got to adjust for that. Food and water, if you don't drink exactly the same amount, you have to adjust for that. So I would do it every Saturday morning as soon as I woke up. I only lost a pound on that week, which is fine. I was going for, my whole goal was to lose 25 pounds in 25 weeks. So that would put me right at just about 175, 176 for the competition, which the middleweight division is where I've had most of my success. I have competed in light heavyweight, but I never felt like I was tight enough or I had a big enough shot, because I was always in that 178 or even last year I was 180 pounds, which is why I knew I needed 4 more weeks to come back down. And that puts me at the very small side of the light heavyweight division. So I wanted to be in the middleweight division in the 176 range. When I won the Mr. Universe in Barbados in 2012, I was 175, 174, something like that on stage on competition day. And I really liked what I had there. On week 4, so I lost a pound on week 3. I was down to 197 pounds, still 11% body fat. And I dropped my calories just a little bit from 2,942 the week before to 2,832. My carbs went down to 275. My fat went down to 96, and my protein went down to 1 gram to 217. As you can see, I try and do the smallest amount of cutting of calories as possible, and I try and keep my protein as high as possible. It does go down throughout the weeks here, but I want to keep my protein as high as I can to keep muscle mass as my calories and my carbohydrates and fats come down. On week 5, I actually went up a pound to 198. And I thought that I probably did I cut my calories too fast. So I went back up to my original, I guess, which was 3,300 calories, 372 grams of carbs, 112 grams of fat, 217 grams of protein, just because I felt that I took my calories and my macros down too quickly to really have a good cut. My body was already stalling out being 300 calories low, and so I wanted to get a bump up to reset my metabolism. On the next week, week 5, week 6, I was back down to 196. So that bump up in calories, bump up in carbs really helped to reset my metabolism. I went down to 10% body fat, and so I went to 2,746 with 259 grams of carbs, 94 grams of fat, and 216 grams of protein. The way I do my dieting is I earn my carbs, so I have the most amount of carbs on my pre and post workout, and then I decrease the total number of carbs that I have, or the percentage of carbs that I have for the other remaining 3 meals, the breakfast, the first meal, what I call my first meal is breakfast. Second and third meal are any meals that are after my pre and post workout. Week 6, I had strep throat, so I didn't diet, I didn't train, so I didn't diet, meaning I kept my calories and macros all the same as the previous week, because I knew I needed to get rid of this the strep throat that I had. So I kept all the macros the same. I dropped a pound, and so I stayed at 2746. On week 7, thanks to the strep throat, I dropped down to 193 pounds. So I had lost 2 pounds from strep and from continuing my diet. And so I kept the macros the same. If I lose weight, there's really no reason to bring the macros down. I'm trying for 1 pound to 1.5 pounds a week, right? So it's still 2746. I bumped my carbohydrates up a little bit to help recover to 262. My fat's at 94, my protein's at 213. And now this was the first time, so the first 6 weeks, I didn't do any type of carb cycling other than having my carbs cycled higher or lower depending on the meal. So now I started doing, on week 7, I started doing 1 higher carb meal a day and the rest lower carbs, basically, lower calories. And I put that high carb day on the muscle group that I really wanted to maintain the most muscle mass, or that I needed to bring up. So I always do that on leg day. Natural bodybuilders seem to always lose size in their legs first, because that's a high muscle area, high energy level area. So on my high carb day, I went all the way up to 417. So from 262 to 417, my fats went up to 104 versus 94, and my protein stayed the same. So that next week, I lost another pound. So everything stayed the same, 2746, 262, 94, and 213 grams on the carbs, protein, fat, respectively, and kept the high carb meal in. Week 9, I didn't lose any weight, and my body fat stayed the same, so I dropped the calories down from 2746 down to 2549, with carbs being 233, fats being 85, and protein being 213 on the low carb day. On the high carb day, they went up to 347 on the carbs and 93 on the fats, and the protein stayed the same at 213. Doing that, I didn't lose any weight. This was, I believe, in July or August. I wasn't losing any weight, so I dropped my calories down yet again to 2131. That was a real stressful month for me. July and August were 2 really stressful months for me. And I believe that even being on those low amount of calories and low amount of carbohydrates, my body was just holding on to fat as a fight or flight protection mechanism for me, being so stressed out with life. So I even went down to 2,131 calories with 161 carbs, 71 fats, and 213 proteins. On my high carb day, it was 347 on the carbs and 93 on the fats. So I made a conscious decision at that point as well in July that I needed to change my mental outlook, my mental decision processing, and understand that life happens, the world around you happens, and stressing about it, worrying about it, doesn't change it. You can either take steps to make a change in your life, or you can let it consume you. And I decided I wasn't going to let it consume me. I was going to find happiness and make better decisions on how I handled my stress. I started meditating again and adding more cardio. Oh, let me talk about cardio for a second. This is the first time I've ever done cardio from week 1. I usually do the first 6 to 10 weeks without cardio, letting my diet do all the work for me. But I didn't like the way things happened last year, so I added cardio in from the very beginning. So my first 6 weeks, I only did cardio once a week with high intensity interval training, and I used the Prowler sled for that. So every Sunday, I would come in and do abdominal training for 20 minutes and then 20 minutes of HIIT, which was the Prowler sled, 20 seconds of push as far as I could go, and then a minute 40 of rest. At about week 10, I started adding a second day, and sometimes it would be the Prowler sled push, sometimes it would be a weight-based, strength-based cardio. So maybe it was deadlifts for 10 sets or 15 sets of as many reps as I could do at a high weight. And usually I was getting those reps starting the first 20 seconds. I would be able to get 10 or 11 reps. And by the time I was finished with my 15th round, it would be around 9 or 8 reps. And I only would take with deadlifts, I do 20 seconds of work and 60 seconds of rest. So my weight went down to 190 on week 10, and so I kept my calories the same at 2131 and my macros 163, 71, and 210. On my high carb day, I didn't go as high as before. I only went to 224 grams of carbs and 75 grams of fat. Then on week 11, I made a major drop down to 188 pounds, but I still took my calories down a little bit to 2,066 with 151 carbs, 70 fats, and 208 grams of protein. So now I'm starting to bring that protein down a little bit versus keep it all the way up at 215. I don't like to go much higher than 1.15 or 1.2 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. So that's why the protein went down. On my high carb days, I was at 249 on the carbs and 77 on the fats, protein staying the same. I'm now at about week 11, 7.5% body fat, down from 13 when I started. So 173 pounds of muscle, 14 pounds of fat. So 7 pounds of fat loss and 1.2 pounds of muscle loss. I probably should have kept my protein a little bit higher to keep that muscle loss, but see how it goes. On week 12, I was 187 pounds, so that's a 1 pound drop. So I kept everything the same. On week 13, 186 pounds, so I didn't lose any, so I dropped down to 1,946 with my carbs being 132, my fats being 66, and my protein down another gram to 206. My high carb days were 221 and my fats were 72 there. Week 14, 183.5 pounds. So that was a big jump or a big drop, 2.5 pounds. So what you can see here is like fat loss isn't like this, right? Fat loss goes sometimes a bump up depending on your stress levels or whatever, but it's never linear. it moves as your life moves. So if you're watching your fat and you're watching your weight loss, don't get discouraged when 1 week or 2 weeks in a row you have a plateau. You just have to make a change, and maybe that change is more cardio, or maybe that change is a new strength training program, or maybe it's dropping the calories. So my calories went down a little bit to 1919 with 126 carbs, 66 fats, and 204 grams of protein. On my high carb day, I only went up to 203 and 71. Week 15, I'm down to 181 pounds, so that's a 1.5 pound drop. I didn't change anything. Kept it all the same, both on the low carb day and the high carb days. So now I'm at week 15. I was 179 pounds. I finally broke that 180. Just dropped my calories, total of 19 calories. Just took a little bit of carb down and just another gram of protein down, because again, I don't want to be too much over 1.15 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So that's why my calories came down that little bit. Week 16 now, I'm still 179, so I dropped down to 1,860 calories, 122 carbs, 64 fats, and 199 proteins. My high carb day, I only went up to 198 grams of carbs and 69 grams of fat. Week 17, I'm at 177.5 pounds. So I bumped it up again to 1,900, trying to stay trying to keep as much muscle as possible. Between weeks 10 and week 17, I had dropped 3 pounds of muscle. So I bumped up my calories a little bit and carbohydrates to try and maintain as much muscle as possible. My high carb day then went back up to the 200 range, 233 grams. Week 18 or 19, I'm at 176.5. So I was really happy because I was supposed to do a show in Youngstown, and I needed my weight to be 176. All I wanted was 176. I wouldn't have been as tight as I wanted to, but I felt that would give me enough tightness and enough shape to qualify for the World Finals. So 1 week away from the stage, I was at 176.5. I needed to be 176.25 for that competition. So I was happy. I felt that I had made weight, and I would still make weight on show day with my peak week, the way I do my peak week with carb cycling and everything like that. I don't manipulate water. I keep my water high at 2 gallons a day, all the way up until show day. But I brought my calories back down to 1859 with 126 grams of carbohydrates, 63 fats, and 197 protein. Here's the thing. I was at weight at week 19 for that competition, but I had found out 2 weeks prior that competition was canceled. So luckily with the DFAC, they know my track record competing. I've competed in their organization before. They know that I do everything as right as I can, and so they granted me a provisional to go directly to the World Finals. So that was a big thumbs up to Rich Fitter. Thank you very much. But I was really happy that I was still going to make my weight by my goal, which was at week 20. On week 20, I was 175, so I was really stoked that I would have been right on target, and there was no holding back. There was no problems with that. 3 weeks prior to that, I also took a trip down to Florida. Needed some R&R, but it was a working trip. I worked out every single day, twice a day, weights, cardio, perfect nutrition. Didn't go out to eat. Bought food and made it at the apartment, and so I was able to stay right on track. By week 20, I was 175. I'm still at 1,819 calories. I'm at 118 grams of carbohydrates, 63 fats, and 195 proteins. My high carb days, I was up to 191 grams and 67 grams of fat. At week 21, I was 173. So still bringing that body fat down. And that was last week, right? Yeah, that was last week. So 173 pounds. So I kept my calories at 1,855. So you can see for like almost 16 weeks, I was under 1,900, or for under 6 weeks, 5 weeks, I was under 1,900 calories. My carbs are 120, 63 fats, 193 proteins. And my high carb day never got over 200, is at 188 and 67. And then this week I was feeling under the weather kind of almost all week long, just not feeling fantastic. I put on a pound. That's not a pound of fat. I can't possibly gain a pound of fat by being on under 1900 calories at a body weight of 173. So I had some water retention due to feeling sick. I went to bed last night at 179 pounds, which is typical, right? You're going to weigh more at the end of the day than you are at the beginning of the day. I had 2 and a quarter gallons of water yesterday. My diet was on point, but I felt really bad yesterday. I woke up today at 174. So that's a pound up from last week, but I know it's not fat. It's just water retention from being sick. But this is my last week before peak week for World Championships. So I did bring my calories down yet again to 1,690 calories, which is going to suck. 100 grams of carbs, 57 grams of fats, and 194 grams of protein. I'm only going to do that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I will keep my carbs the same, but I'll bring some protein up because it's so low in total calories. I need to bring that protein up a little bit to give a little more metabolism boost and save this last bit of muscle that I have. I'll do a high carb meal on Tuesday, which is only 168 grams of carbs. And then I have my peak week that basically starts on Wednesday with keeping the carbs low, bringing the protein and the fats up just a little bit. And then starting Monday of next week, I do my carb load, and then I bring it down. So high carbs Monday, medium carbs Tuesday, lower carbs, lower not being under 200 grams or not being under 175 grams, depending on how my body reacts. It's all in looking at the body, seeing how it's reacting to the higher carbs. If I'm gaining a little bit, watching that scale, I'll run that lower carb Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday, depending on how my body's reacted on Monday, I'll bring those carbs up as well and hope to fill out for show day on Saturday, which is 2 weeks from today. My water is going to stay high, 2 gallons all the way up to show day, and then drink what I need to, just what I need to on show day. And hopefully it gives me the result that I want and gives me the look that I want, and we come back with, a really good placing. So, hey, thanks for watching this. I know it was long, 22 minutes, 23 minutes coming up, but I've never really told people how I actually diet down for competition. I just tell people that I go from high calories to low calories. And this is the lowest I've ever been. I don't think I've ever been at under 1,800 calories. But you got to get uncomfortable every once in a while. And it's really only there for a week or, 10 days before the show. So I hope everything goes well. I hope this was informative to you. If you're looking to do competition or just want to cut some body fat, let me know. I can help you with that. And thanks again. Have a great weekend.